Okay, we are on. Hello, peeps. This is Marci Locke, and you're obviously joining us from Marci Locke TV, one of my favorite things to do because I get to actually have the opportunity to connect with the most amazing people. So we're on a really limited time frame today, and I have one of the most amazing, awesome people on with me. So I want to kind of blaze right through this and dig into it. The person that's on is actually the person who pretty much has taught me everything. Quite a bit. So what is Marci Locke TV? If you have not joined us before, it's about connecting with people who are influential, who are making a difference, to see that your life can be epic. That's really our whole intention here, is for me to bring on people who are living in either their god or their goddess and showing you that they have a life of, I'm going to use the actual verbiage of the guy who's on, which is a life of having it all. And so I believe that you can have an epic life. And I learned that from my master mentor, who's on the show with us today. So you can always go to marcilockeapp.com to download the app and get all the past TV shows and radio shows and awesomeness for free. And you can also go to mindbody90.com to get the free video series to liberate yourself from the lies and get the truth to Rockin Body of life. So today, I'm just going to turn it right over. This is the guy who is known as the Master Coach Mentor. He was my first coach 6 years ago, when I was the waitress making $2 an hour, single broken mom, just found out I was, had a cheating husband, got divorced, 2 little boys, 1 and 4 years old, going, how in the hell am I going to survive? And this was the man who I interacted with through, actually, just a friend had given me a flyer saying something about a mom who could live your passion, and I was like, oh, is that possible? So I went to this seminar and I heard this man, Garrett J. White, and the rest is history. He changed my life. He became my first coach. I invested in myself to learn how to do to get the same results that he exemplified. And so that was really my first step. So now, obviously, the journey 6 years later, making over 6 figures a month, being able to share my passion and purpose, it all started, hello, with this man.
I would have known that you could sing so well. That's fantastic.
I didn't either. These are the things that just come out of me when we do live shit, Garrett.
Oh,
but
back then you couldn't afford the cool earrings that you have now.
I know, right? I mean, a lot has changed.
Only when you're balling can you afford to go have unique ostriches killed and turned into earrings. So, yeah.
There were no ostriches hurt in the recording of this show. Let's clarify. So this man is like my brother, and actually it's a great honor that people refer to me as his twin. And that's just because I've gotten to learn from him and I have the claim to fame of being the only female to ever go through the warrior movement, which is only for men, and the only female that Garrett continues to coach and has coached. So, pa-cha! Right, that's just
suckers.
I'm done, Garrett. I'm done in life. I've achieved.
Finished. That was a great introduction. I mean, with those earrings, who I don't think anybody could actually hear what you were saying. They were just like, oh my God, those earrings are amazing. And not only the fact that your lighting is so fantastic.
No.
Fantastic on your lighting. My lighting, I got like a red face, but I think that's because I pretty much have a red face like a lot of the time. If the sun comes out, I get a red face. So, yeah, I'm excited to be here with you today and see if we can't create a little value for the Marci 90 fans and all those individuals who have chosen to go the direction of the goddess movement that you're leading. We push a ton of people. We have a lot of followers of women in the Wake Up Warrior movement of what we're doing at wakeupwarrior.com. But, again, because it's a male-only program with the exclusion of Marci, our only sister, we kind of look at ourselves like the Smurfs, right? There was only one chick in the Smurfs. Her name was Smurfette. And then there was dudes. Yeah, you're like Smurfette in the warrior movement.
Now I know.
So, you kind of brought up the conversation to have it all, and I think that's probably a good conversation for us to have today.
Yes.
There are a lot of people hashtagging it now and talking about it, and it wasn't a new conversation when I started talking about it, but it was a new conversation in the way I started seeing it in myself, and what I thought was possible for other people. And what I saw around the world, I like a lot of people woke up one morning and I was like, you know what, there has to be a better way.
Yep.
And my banking business had fallen apart, my marriage was falling apart, my life was falling apart, and in 2008 and 2009, after implosion of all my businesses, I decided to take on ultra running. And I had a friend, we have a common friend, Matt Ward, who had seen me finish the Ironman World Championships in 2007. He's like, dude, that's for Ironman's for pussies. You need to be an ultra runner. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? And he's like, we just put on our shoes and we run in the mountains for like ever. And I was like, okay. So Matt and I would get together and we'd wake up early in the morning, and his marriage was falling apart, and his life was falling apart, and my life was falling apart. And so two falling apart live guys, little skinny gazelles, would put on their running shoes, and we'd run into the mountains for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours at a time with our packs on and our snacks, and gave us a lot of time to talk about life and pontificate about how in the hell had we gotten to the place that we did. And so I started running a lot by myself, and I just started asking better questions. And I think a lot of times the power of our life comes down to the questions we're willing to ask, not the questions that people ask us, but we're actually willing to ask ourselves. You know, for a long time, I wasn't willing to ask a question about God. I wasn't willing to ask a question about marriage. I wasn't willing to ask a question about, you know, life and what it could be. I mean, I'm gonna be straight sure with you. I mean, right before this show, I didn't meditate. Why? Because I was making love to my wife.
There you go.
My wife was a guest on this show too, with Marci, and that kind of reality for me, you know, it's 9 in the morning or so when we're doing the show my time, and that kind of shit would have never happened. I mean, my wife was disgusted by me. I was disgusted with myself. So to have any kind of connection like that, and then to do it prior to a TV interview with a full day, I mean, hell no, that never would have happened. So I started asking questions. And the one question I asked myself was like, okay, well, is it possible to have it all? And defining have it all for me came down to, could you be really, really fit, like, and at the same time be really, really connected to your purpose and feel like you had direct communication with God, and that your life was heading in a direction on purpose, not to be perfect, but you felt like you were on purpose. Third was, could you have a marriage that was like connected, a relationship with somebody that was connected, and a relationship with the kids was connected, and could you have, you know, money at the same time? And I had one of those things, all 4 of them I had really, really awesome, but like only one at a time. So it was like a relationship was going really, really well, but my business was like just pure bullshit. Or my business was going really, really well, and I just kind of said screw it, I don't really care about my body. And that was the first 2 years of banking. I got into banking, started making a shitload of money, and I mean, I was like 220, looked like a pear. I got turned into a little softy. You know, there was no Jesus on the bicep. I mean, this like didn't exist. Like, it was just, I was fatty. And then there were times where I would be super, super meditative, which was the time I started doing these ultra running. And I would be barefoot and grow my hair out and wear big ass mala beads. And Marci knows because we do events and we'd have Marci come speak there. And Marci was like more of
Never wore shoes on stage.
You wore shoes. I never wore shoes. I was like such a weird hippie. I'd walk into bathrooms and people look at me like, seriously, you're barefoot in the bathroom. It's disgusting. I was like, well, yeah, whatever. I don't care. I might sleep in a van down by the river if I keep up this behavior, because I'm not only going to not have a house, but my wife's going to boot me.
Yeah.
So that was the question. And, you know, for viewers and for people watching this is, you know, what kind of questions are you asking yourself? And what kind of questions are you willing to ask yourself? You know, do you really know what you say you know about God? You know, is the religious tradition you were brought up in, is it actually serving and working for you? When you look at business, is this really the only way that life can operate for you? Is that the only money that you can make? Is that the only situation that you can create? When you look at your marriage, you're like, is that it? You know, have you settled into mediocrity? Have you become complacent and okay with just things being okay? You know, and physically, you know, Marci, which is everything you teach about the body, you know, have you just decided that, you know, being soft is like how life's supposed to be? You know, you hit your 30s and then, you know, you just kind of gradually put on 10 lbs every year until you're a fat ass at 16. You need a freaking walker. I mean, this has become like our standard of life has become this digression of bullshit.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, that was where the questioning started, was running in the mountains by myself, and I figured a few pieces of it out. I don't think I figured it all out, but I've definitely figured a lot of it out.
Well, so tell us, because obviously a lot of people follow you, Garrett, and you're known for everything from, you're known for the warrior movement, from taking men to epic, but it didn't start there. You're saying it started years ago. Who are you is really where I want people to hear that whole picture of where did you get this clue that, okay, yes, life has been awesome in one or two aspects. So what led you to do the warrior movement and finding who you are really now?
So Wake Up Warrior, interesting enough, I was business partners with a guy named Neil Bryce and Ryan Bradshaw back in 2010. We were running a business called Pay to Play Academy, which was my first attempt to really, like, I was trying to figure out how to put this purpose conversation. So look at the swing here. For years I'm in banking and all I really care about is banging deals. And then like I lose all that after 8 years of building it in, and it becomes this pursuit of purpose. And so I start meditating all the time and asking all these purpose-driven questions, and I go from, you know, Donald Trump's my hero to Dr. Wayne Dyer's my hero. And that's a pretty big swing in people you're looking up to. And so I started trying to figure out if there was a way to put it together. You know, because I go to a meditation retreat and most people I knew were broke at the meditation retreat. And then I go to a business event and most people I knew like didn't give a shit about purpose and God and calling, and it was just like all about money. And I was like, wow, like, is there a way to put these together? And so Pay to Play Academy became the first run or first attempt at this, and we built a home study course, and with the assistance of my mentor at that time and friend Greg Anderson, who eventually became one of our warriors in a warrior program and one of the leaders and trainers in warrior, we launched this to on the world, this paid to play program. And really it was like 98% find your purpose and power and like 5% make money, but we called it Paid to Play Academy nonetheless. And it kind of worked. And during that time, I had this phrase, we were sitting there, we had this idea of just some different marketing strategies, and I was like, we're sitting talking one day, I was like, I wonder what would happen if we, I wonder what would happen if we had like an entrepreneur had like a meditation coach, and they had like a fitness coach and a nutrition coach, and they had like a business coach, and they had a life coach and a relationship coach. What if we could get like 7 coaches together, and we could send these entrepreneurs into this like 6-month program? And we had gotten into UFC, and I was watching fighting all the time, and we were sitting there one day, and I'm like, yeah, and then let's make them fight somebody at the end of it. Like, they got a fight trainer, and we get the pro athletes come in. Well, we had a friend who knew the top promoters in the UFC, and so we sat down with them, and I pitched them on this idea, and they were like, dude, that sounds like a pretty good idea. What would you call it? And I was sitting on this chair in this building called the Horizon Financial Building in Sandy, Utah, on the 3rd floor, or it was actually 2nd floor because that's where our studio was. And I was like, I think I would call it Wake Up Warrior. And they're all, yeah, I like that. I think we could get behind that. All right, cool. What would you do? So Ryan actually made a video with this like black dude who was doing capoeira. And like, I don't even know if I fucking say it right, but capoeira, whatever it is. And he's doing like the ninja kicks. Yeah, and it's like, yeah. And Ryan makes the video, and we're all pumped up because the video's like all awesome. And we're like, yeah, Wake Up Warrior. And I buy the domain, wakeupwarrior.com. It's 2010, beginning of 2010. And the UFC guys are like, okay, dude, that's awesome. And I was like, you know what, if we're going to do this, why don't I be the guy who fights? So I go sign up and hire Jeremy Horn, who ran a fighting training center in Salt Lake City, Utah, to start training me. And I scheduled a fight, and the first day he chokes me out, and I black out. I get the shit kicked out of me for like a week straight. Ryan Bradshaw actually records me getting choked out.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was funny. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to fight. And, well, they scheduled the fight, then it got rescheduled, and finally after 3 months I just quit doing it, and I was like, whatever. It just faded. I didn't do anything, and so I forgot all about it. One of the problems I realized at that time with any message was that you had to know how to market. So in the fall of 2011, summer to fall of 2011, I was like, you know what? I'm going to become a master marketer. Why? Because I had a conversation with Andrew Locke, who ran the #1 podcast business show called Help My Business Sucks, and he and I had become friends because I did a lot of video in his studio. And he said to me, he said, Garrett, the minute that you care about marketing as much as you care about your message is the moment you'll never struggle to get people in the seats to hear your message. And I was like, huh. And so then I asked a question to myself. I said, who would I have to become in order to have marketing be who I am, not something I do? So I always had leads. Right now I get between 14 to 15 guys a week that apply for Wake Up Warrior. I'm very selective about who we invite in. Our ticket price is high for a 4-day entry event in Laguna Beach, California. We don't fuck around with it. And all this started with these 2 questions that really we were asking back in 2009 and 8 when we were running, me and Matt, which is like, who am I? Where the hell am I going? And the bigger question is like, what do I want out of my life, and is it possible to have it all? So that was the birth of Wake Up Warrior, but it went to bed and I didn't do anything with it. I became a marketing consultant and building online systems and technology, and I don't learn at the normal speed that normal people do. Like some people like learn cool shit in like a year, life like improves quite a bit. But my life in about a month, anything that you thought you knew about me a month ago is going to become old news, and all the entire software programs and apps in my brain will have been updated to the newest version, and any viruses that were there last month have been eradicated, and we're operating at fully functional different levels. So people who step into my world, it's like a time warp. Normal people are like, and in my world and the guys that we run with, it's like, and then they come into my world and they've been doing this, and meanwhile again I'm like, and they're like, what the fuck happened to that guy? Well, this is what happens when you start living the warrior's way. When you start creating a life that pushes forward all 4 areas of your life at the same time, I believe that you create for yourself, you create ultimately for yourself the highest form of who we've been commanded to be and who we were called to be as gods and goddesses in evolution. And when we work on our bodies and we work on our minds and we work on our marriages and we work on our spiritual connection and we work on our businesses, which is really just a tool to create value, to take unorganized experiences and make them organized, to take unclear things and make them clear. And when we do all this at the same time, like our life looks like in the beginning it's not moving, but it's actually moving very powerfully. It's like a tsunami. Like you don't see it coming. So people are like, oh, you're having it all. You're a pussy. And you're like, okay, I get it. You can make fun of me right now because you're Mr. Home Run Hitter. I get it because I used to be a home run hitter too. So you can make fun of me when I get up to bat and I just try to hit a single. I was like, but the truth is, like, I'm going to hit the single and I'm going to get on first. You're going to swing and maybe you do get a home run. Good for you. And I'm going to get up and I'm going to swing on the next day. I'm going to hit another single, and then I'm going to have 2 people on base. Then I'm going to get up the 3rd day. I'm going to hit another single, and now my base is going to be loaded. And now is when the tsunami begins to crash on the beach. And people are like, well, then what happens? You're like, well, I get up the next day, and they're like, and then you try to hit a home run and grand slam? I was like, no, you hit a single. And I was like, and then look what happens. I hit a single, I score a run. I hit a single, I score a run. So with my wife, I didn't try to change my marriage overnight. I got up every day and I said, okay, what's one thing I could do today to push my marriage forward? I got up every day with my kids and realized that I didn't, as a father, even know how to really be a father. And I was like, shit, I got to study this. I got to practice this. But I'm not going to try to hit a home run and go from like douchebag dad to like epic Disneyland dad in one weekend. I'm gonna take it every single day. And this takes some patience. You know, my body, oh, I want to lose 200 pounds because I saw Biggest Loser, and dude lost 200 pounds in like 90 days. And the part you didn't see is they put like all the weight back on and they sued Biggest Loser because they got fat again. And you're like, are you shitting me? You got fat again because you ate like shit. You didn't work out, and your body went back to the place it normally was because you tried to change too quickly. So I just started waking up every morning. It was completely against my MO, and I stayed focused, and I just swung singles. And that became the baseline of having it all. And I started that conversation back in 2012. I started living this. And it was really hard at first because I was like, man, this is fucking exhausting. This is exhausting to be worried about these 4 things every single day. Worried about my body, worried about what I eat, what I do for fitness, worried about what I meditate, worried about my spiritual study, worried about journaling, worried about taking my kids out, worried about sending a nice message to my wife and getting her flowers, worried about marketing, worried about sales, worried about systems, worried about technology, worried about over-delivering to my clients, worried about all that. And so like in the beginning, it was like really overwhelming because I had only known how to be the guy who was like really all in on one thing and let everything else burn. And then when it was all burning, I'd be like, oh shit, it's all burning. So I'd let the one thing go. I'd quickly run over to the thing that was burning, and I would start spraying the fire extinguisher to put it out. And then realize that the thing I just let go of, like now, like 2 months later, I hadn't gone back to, and now the fire had spread, and so the thing that was working is now burning, and the thing that I got working is now working, but now I got to run to another thing that's now on fire and being torched. And I was like, this is exhausting. And so I just settled in and said, the alternative to not doing this is to live a life of insanity. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna see what life would look like, and I'm gonna do it in a different place. Like this green smoothie is an example. So in December of 2012, prior to that, I'd lived a nutrition plan. The nutrition plan was pretty simple. Here it was. Like, do something extreme and expect the results to happen, like, really fast. And I was like, what the hell am I so impatient for? So I was like, all right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to quit trying to manage my diet by subtraction. I'm gonna manage my diet by addition.
Yep.
And I started drinking this big-ass green smoothie, this whole Vitamix.
That's what I do.
Every single morning. Every morning. And I put spinach in it, and strawberries and bananas and MCT oil and avocado, and all these nutrition people are like, dude, you can't this, and the biomolecular Jedi Knight structure of the frickin' rotogirder and the spinach that meets up with the frickin' whack me off in the strawberries is not going to mix well with your DNA helix frickin' rotogirder system and your metabolic pathways. And I'm like, listen, I'm more ripped than I've ever been. Fuck off. It's like, I didn't ask for your opinion. I'm just going to start testing stuff, and I'm going to quit believing people's opinions, and I'm going to test shit and see if it works for me. So I did it, and it worked, and I've never felt better. So this was strategy step 1. Strategy step 2 was replace my midday meal. And I did oatmeal. Why? Because I like oatmeal. People are like, well, why are you doing oatmeal? Oatmeal's not good for you, and it's grains, and it's got gluten. And I'm like, listen, I put extra gluten in my oatmeal just to tell you to fuck off, gluten non-eaters. They're like, no, gluten's good for you, bad for you, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, can you even tell me what fucking gluten is? And they're like, well, yeah, it's like stuff like in breads. I'm like, listen, when you can bring me a stack of gluten, I'll go ahead and worry about not putting that on my oatmeal. Until then, fuck off. I'm going to eat my oatmeal and leave me alone. And so I started just telling the world to shut up. And I said, what works for me? How does my marriage work for me? How does my body work for me? And I also quit assuming that I knew what would work for everyone else. That was the beauty of telling everyone to fuck off, is I also now had permission to say, hey, you know what? I don't know what will work for you. Here's what I'm doing. Here's a process I'm using. It might work for you. I don't know, though, because I'm crazy. And you might not be crazy, and so it may not work for you. You might be a total mediocre, run-of-the-mill, saltine cracker with no salt and no taste kind of person. And if you are, I get it. I'm a fucking jalapeno with some sriracha up on that bitch. And you know what? What works for a jalapeno with sriracha up on it is going to be very different than works for a bland saltine cracker with no salt. But I've actually found that most people want a little jalapeno up in their life. They're attracted to it. They're drawn to it. It's why they love Marci. It's why they love me. It's why they love people who actually have an opinion and have a voice and are willing to drop firecrackers all over the place. So that became Have It All, was really the system of swinging, simple success swinging singles. And in January of 2013, I finally felt like the call, really. And it was like, okay, time to drop all the marketing, consulting, the done-for-you services, all the stuff you're doing, and just want you to go all in on Warrior. It was so like refreshing to not only be in my calling, but also at the same time to know that all the work I had done prior to that, all the skill sets and mindsets I've obtained, that all of them were now serving me to be able to live the calling. And this is where I think a lot of people who feel like they're called to stuff get it wrong. You know, they feel like they're going to be able to just go build the calling. I mean, you've spent 6 years paying the price. Like, people be like, oh, well, Marci, and I'm like, yeah, listen, like, you didn't see Marci when she was like bleeding in a ditch. Yep. Not once, but like 30 times. Like, you weren't there during the moments when she had to go all in as a single mom with kids. And so I tell my dudes all the time, I was like, listen, we got a little Smurfette sister who has paid the price in such a significant way, and right now you are being a big-ass pussy. And what you're telling me right now has no validity, because I know a single mom with 2 kids who has paid the price over and over and over for greatness, and you're over here, you've got every reason in the world, plus a partner to support you, and you're being weak as hell. Like, so you either want it or you don't. And that's the second part to asking questions is you can ask powerful questions, but the question that really becomes after you ask powerful questions about your life is, are you willing to pay the price to do what the voice tells you is the answer? Now, are you willing to walk from a church you've been raised in? Are you willing to walk from a marriage that's not working? Are you willing to walk from a job or a business that's not serving you anymore? Are you willing to walk from the addictions of the way you eat or the way that you operate with fitness in order to get something better? Are you willing to walk from who you've been as a father or a mother? See, like, what if you ask the question and the question tells you to do something like Abraham? I mean, listen to that story. I mean, it's so insane when you actually think about it. Until you have kids, you don't really get it. But the way I like to compare it now is like, so Abraham's asked to like go up into the mountains with his son and kill him. Now, this isn't like some baby. This isn't like some kid he could just throw on his shoulder. This kid was like 12, 13 years old, just a teenager. My 3-year-old's insane. She goes crazy. I can't, like, it's a freaking war trying to get her to like cooperate. So I can only imagine a 13-year-old. So he's asked to go up into the mountains and can't trick God. And God's like, listen, I need you to kill this kid. Not only that, I need you to pack up the shit you're going to bake the fire with and build the altar with to kill him. Now, I can only imagine what it's like. People cruise through that story in Bible study all the time. Like, oh, well, and Abraham, he went up and he had so much faith and it was so amazing. And he went up to, you know, and he laid down Isaac upon the altar and he pulled out the knife and he's like, I'm going to kill Isaac. And oh, shit, look, there's a ram in the thicket. Oh, good. I knew I was going to be able. Nah, man, he had no idea there was a ram. And at the same time, are you kidding me? He was operating off the law of Moses, which was thou shalt not kill. If you kill, you go to fucking hell. So here's a guy who's being taught his whole life, do not kill under any circumstance. Raised in an environment as a kid where priests were crucifying human beings. Watching and observing the mutilation of human beings in the name of God. This was Abraham's childhood. And so Abraham now is an adult and he's asking questions like you're asking questions. And God's delivering him answers like he's delivering you answers. And Abraham, you can only imagine the torture in his mind when the voice, not some memo or a fucking text message or a map or a blueprint, wasn't even on the commandments. There was no tablets, there was no burning bush. There was a prompting in his mind that said, take your son up into the mountains, grab your sacrificial knife, and kill him. Are you fucking kidding me? And we breeze over that story, and then people say, oh, Abraham's so faithful, and yet you can't even fucking get up in the morning and go to work and on your body. You can't have a hard conversation with your wife, yet you go to the same book of Scripture, you reference Abraham all day long about his faith when your faith is weak as shit. You can't even ask a question, let alone do the answer that comes to the question. So Abraham goes up on the mountain, can't fool God. Which means his heart and his energy and his mind, everything was in oneness with this sword, this knife, and he was going to kill his son. That would be like the voice coming to me today and saying, listen, you want to follow me, Garrett? You want to follow me? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go down to this location. I want you to buy a 9mm Beretta. I want you to get the ammunition. Then I want you to come home tonight after work. I want you to pick up your daughter who's 7 years old. I want you to put her in the car and I want you to drive up in the canyons in Ladera Ranch, Orange County, California. Once you get here, I want you to take a right, take the dirt road up to the top. Then I want you to take her out of the car. I want you to lie her down on a log that's up there and I want you to pull the gun out, put it in her fucking mouth and pull the trigger. Man, when I started thinking about that myself, I was like, shit, I don't got any faith. Kidding me? So when the voice comes to me and says, hey, create that video and do it. When the voice says, trust me and leap in your business. And the voice says, say the words the way I need you to say them so they'll reach the people that you need to hear them. And most of the people aren't going to understand. And when they hear the voice the way that I need you to speak it coming through you, they're going to persecute you, but did you think you were any better than I am? And did you think you were any different than your brother Isaac and your brother Abraham? Did you think you were any better than my son as he was beaten and then crucified? Come on now, every leader has been called to answer the questions, and in the moment of asking the question, the answer is where the scary part comes. And this is why most people will not ask the questions of liberation. And even if they did ask them, God knows deep inside their hearts, they're pussies that won't take the action necessary to actually do the work that would have them follow the revelation. And so again, as it goes in the Bible, unto he who hath been given shall be given more abundantly, unto he who hath been given little shall that even be taken from him and given to he who hath. So what does this mean in the form of asking questions of revelation? It's really simple. If you ask questions and you don't follow the directive, go ahead and just quit now. Because here's what will happen. You're going to get a couple more shots. And if you keep denying the voice of revelation inside of you because of the fear of men. See, fear not, therefore thy witness and testimony of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And yet people do it. Why? For the fear of men. Be thou therefore not ashamed, were the words. And people are like, Garrett, you can't say fuck and Jesus all up in there. Man, I got Jesus tattooed on my arm. Don't tell me what I can and cannot do. And at the end of the day, if you don't have to like me, but the thing you've got to understand is if you don't hear the voice in your world, it's because you ain't asking the questions. Knock and you shall be open unto you. Seek and you shall find. Ask and you shall receive. But if you're too big of a pussy to actually go to the door of questioning, don't be surprised when you don't have the answers. And then when you get the answers and you don't do shit with them, don't be surprised when the windows of heaven and the voice of God closes in your life and you become a neutered, sedated, weak individual, a cattle in the field being tossed to and fro like a boat without a rudder, wondering why your life has become a mediocre, one-dimensional pile of shit. But here's the beautiful part of this whole story. It's called grace. Here's the beautiful part of this whole process. It's called repentance. So people look at me and are like, Garrett, you cuss too much. Your hair is too crazy. You're too loud. You don't like your shoes. They look like clown boots. That's what my wife said. I don't like how you do this. I don't like how you do this. And blah, and I'm like, cool. You know what? I don't care, because here's what I know. When the voice comes, I listen. When the voice comes, I act. And in the moment of hearing the voice and acting, all is forgiven in my life. You don't need to be worried about me. The person you got to be worried about is you, who constantly receives revelation, and because of your own fear of persecution from the marketplace and those people around you, you shrink like a big-ass fucking pussy, and you don't do shit. So you know what? God ain't looking for perfect people. In a marketplace of people who have preached like Pharisees from Rameuntums, preaching greatness and goodness, their hearts are far from the message that God's called us to even deliver to this world today. And he's calling forth a new form of leaders like Marci. Women willing to take a stand as a single mother with kids. Why? Because we've got an epidemic occurring worldwide of 30-something women with children, single, being forced into the marketplace to learn how to produce, how to hunt, how to go. Why? Because the men became neutered, sedated, castrated, asleep motherfuckers. That's why. And so into the void with women who have been cast out and left alone are being called to raise up in their greatness. You got Marci. And in the warrior movement, you got a warrior group of men who are rising up and redefining the standard about what it is to be a man. We're not new age pussies running around barefoot with mala beads. I've tried that. And we're not overbearing, banking assholes who steamroll everybody in order to get the shit we want, including our wife and children. No. We're modern men. Modern men with a message. Modern men with a message that could only be heard through us. A message of waking up. A message of truth. You can reject the message all day long because you don't like the messenger. And you know what? You wouldn't be unique in that. You think that the messengers from the beginning of time ever showed up in a way that the people expected? They killed Jesus because they wanted some guy to come down in a fiery chariot and beat the shit out of the Romans. So the Jews are like, you couldn't be Jesus. There's no possible way you're Jesus, because in our story, in our mind, Jesus was going to come down with fiery swords and whoop some ass. And all I got is a Jesus coming down and telling me that I got to look inside myself and the kingdom's in me, and that I need to turn my cheek when my brother whoops me on my face. I need to turn my cheek. Well, this ain't the Jesus that's in my head. So you know what I'm going to go ahead and do? You, Jesus, you can fuck right off. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to listen to you. I'm actually going to tell these people to kill you right now. Because you have my Jesus, Noah, you are not my Jesus. The Jesus I know whoops ass, and you are not a whoop ass Jesus. You are like a soft Jesus. I don't want to hear all this. Oh, I don't like that Marci's fat as fuck. I don't like her. She talks too loud. She's this. She's too masculine. She's too buff. She's more ripped than you. Listen, you're just concerned about the fact that Marci's more ripped than your husband. And your husband's become a fat ass, and you let it be okay. And you know what's worse? You became a fat ass. And now you both are like double fat asses in your 30s, teaching your kids to be fat asses. And what are you really saying? You're really saying, you know what, God? I really appreciate that you continue to speak into my life, but the Vita Temple you've been giving me and the paradisical experience of revelation and the channels through which I get to receive truth, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I clog that shit up so that I cannot hear, so my ears are clogged, my eyes cannot see, my brain is in fog, my heart is closed, and then I'm going to stand in church and I'm going to go, oh, I'm so excited for the day that I die, because the day that I die, poof, Jesus going to hit me on the head with a magic stick, and panda bears and fruit are going to fall from the sky like some fucking lottery that you won, and all of a sudden, magically, you're going to go from one-dimensional douchebag unconscious asshole to what? Oh my, I'm enlightened. I've totally figured out the game. My life's on fire because, well, all I had to do was endure like a slothful piece of shit through my physical life, treat every asset I've been given by God with complete disrespect and disregard, and then I'm going to go back magically having grown not at all. But I can absolutely tell you what is the next program to be released on Netflix, and I can absolutely tell you what it is to eat way too much fucking food. And you know what? Fuck the accent. Here's the thing. Like,
I was enjoying that accent. It came out of nowhere.
It's a little too much like Jeremy Finlay, who can do that
I
way better.
thought that. I was thinking, what would Garrett say about that?
All right, so rant's over. Here's the deal. Like, what do you get from all this? Well, two things. Number one, I can tell you right now, Marci's like my twin. So if you are sitting on the fence and you are a woman, who knows it's time? Because, see, you can hear my voice, and a lot of women, and I'm going to put it out there, I'm going to say what it is. A lot of women are attracted to me and my warrior boys. Not because of the word physical. Yeah, we're physically ripped. I ain't playing around. I get it. Mm-hmm. I was like, but the attraction you feel is a man who's on fire. And I know a lot of women sitting around waiting for the man to be on fire. And the thing I'm going to have you consider is he ain't going to get on fire. So you got two choices. Number one, you can sit around and wait for him to get on fire, and you can keep plugging into a dead piece of wood. Particularly in Christian culture, where women have been told that revelation comes to the family through God, from God to the man to them. And so they sit around and they wait for this guy who's completely unconscious, clueless, powerless, waiting for him to save them. Ladies, I'm going to have you consider that there's an ushering in of an awakening. And that awakening is not by accident. It's not by chance. That the game has been set up for you to lead. And that's a scary thing. And it's hard. I get it. Because our world was built to suppress the shit out of you. And to not support you in who you are. I get it. So what can you do? You can choose. You can choose to sit around and wait to be saved. You can wait until Jesus magically fixes things. Ain't gonna happen. Or you could ask a better question, which is not how can life get easier, but what would it take for me to become more powerful? And who would I have to be to honor the truth and the power of God's voice in my life, regardless of how many women persecute me, and regardless of how many terrified men reject me? And maybe if you're willing to ask that question and you're willing to do what those questions tell you, maybe, just maybe, you become the catalyst to the awakening in that man, and he awakens to who you saw in the beginning. Maybe you're the spark. And if he doesn't, or if you're single, life can feel whole and complete for you, regardless of what another man decides. And I honor you, Marci, for your ruthless commitment to doing what you do and how you do it, and the intensity with which you run. And each level as you continue to rise in the message that you've been called to share with the world, the intensity of those who persecute you for how you stand and for what you say and for how you say it and for the message that God has called you to say. And it's been an honor for me to be in your world and to watch you grow and to sit back on the sideline and to observe you as you're playing the game, and to know the price that you paid, that most will never understand that you paid to be where you are. And it's inspiring. And ladies, I'm just telling you, there's no woman on the planet more qualified to lead you than Marci Locke. And if you have not discovered or gone through her video series at Marci or mindbody90.com, and you haven't spent any time with her, get on it. You know, yeah, Wake Up Warrior as a movement for men is like, we've hit tipping point. And obviously we'd love to have any qualified men watching this to check it out at wakeupwarrior.com, but I have a feeling a lot of viewers here are going to be women and ladies. It's time. Like, it's time. You don't have time to wait anymore. You cannot sit back and continue to hope that you're going to be saved. It is time to strap on your boots. It is time to raise up your swords. It is time to do the thing that you know has been time to do for years. It's time to step into a sisterhood with Marci and the other goddesses as they rise. It is time for you to lead, because the day and age of women being led by men is also coming to an end. And ultimately, what we're building with warrior men would never function if we have disconnected, powerless women, because it is a two-front assault on life and leading of a family with two individuals who choose power. So Marci, thank you so much for having me today and for being here and letting me rant. I didn't know the rant was coming, but of course you and everybody who knows me knows the rant's always coming at some point. So
I just let the platform be here, and I just sat and listened to you and laughed and cried. So what I do want to say, though, is you were definitely the one who liberated me and started me on that path. And for men or women, I know we've got all, you know, both that follow the show, and for women who have the unconscious man, like you said, it's taking it from your example allowed me to believe in epic co-creation, which is still and that's why the Marci Locke show became having men and women on, because that message gets to be shared. But it all comes down to starting within yourself and being fully aligned within you. And although, you know, you can say it over and over, and I'm sure a lot of women will say, please, Garrett, but please. And I'm like, ladies, no matter how many times you say fucking please, it's just going to piss him off more, and he's going to say no. It's not his call. But I honor you for getting super clear with your message, because I've obviously gotten to see you over the years go through. You have so much ability, and you had so many errors, and I'm grateful that there was that time space where you were interested in training and coaching women, because that's what allowed me to connect with you 6 years ago. But that you not only discovered what was missing in your life and listened to those voices and that call to then create the path of freedom. You had to go through the shit yourself, brother. So I honor you for that, because I know, same. I'm just like always that step behind you. You're my twin brother ahead of me, teaching me and guiding me, but all the persecution I've seen you go through and the epic example you've been through for me as all that you've gone through to be the person you are, to stand in your total truth, to share that message, and to guide men, which is like, I mean, yes, I see women who are totally powerless and waiting for the man, and yet the men are never going to stand in their power either. So, I mean, the fact that you have stood in that place and you're guiding men to that place is just a grace from God.
Awesome.
It's meant to be epic. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for teaching me how to stand in my truth and greatness. And that whole calling came out of me because of you, the goddess one. You know, I was trying to deny it because I'm like, I love coaching men. I love calling them on their bullshit. That's so much fun to train and kick ass. But literally through working with you and going from chaos to clarity. So for any guys that are watching, the only person you're never gonna learn to be an epic man unless you're learning from someone with the results. And taking all the little nuggets that Garrett had all along this way, going from home runs to swinging singles, was massive in my life. Massive. Going from not from rejecting marketing, just like he was the one who said, Marci, until you become the master marketer of your business, you will always be out of control. Massively shift in allowing me to share my message. There's a million gold nuggets that you had through all of that ranting, Garrett, that all were so huge for me in changing my life. And so, again, guys, if you want to become conscious and live as the epic man that you're possible to live in and have that amazing marriage and all the experience of an epic life, of having it all, it starts with Garrett White. It really does. So go to wakeupwarrior.com or wakeupwarrioracademy.com. Which one is it, Garrett?
wakeupwarrior.com.
There you go. Okay, so do that. Follow Garrett. Obviously, you can follow him on Facebook as well, but his game is high, and you have to be ready and be a badass, or you don't get to come into the brotherhood. And I'm just always going to be excited that I claim the only sister role.
That's right. Now our next thing is we'll let's have you come punch every single guy in the face in bro down, which will be fun.
I would like a bro down. That would be fun. I think I could hold my game.
Yeah, I think there's a few I think you can take.
There's definitely
yeah, they dominate in business and a lot of stuff, but physically they're still coming up the ranks. So we'll see.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much for being here and taking the time. I love you, brother. I know that you were booked, so I appreciate it.
Love you too. Have a fantastic rest of your day. For all the viewers, thank you so much for viewing. Share this up. Share it up on YouTube. Share it up on Facebook. Click it away. And also check out, again, the link that you see here on this page at mindbody90.com. and or swing over to wakeupwarrior.com. Thanks so much for having me today, Marci.
Love you. Okay, you guys, and you can also get the app for free at marcilockapp.com. And again, go create a fucking fantastical day. Lock it down.